Hey y'all, my name is Christian. I'm a millennial, and this is the Millennial Mind. Millennials get a bad rap for being lazy, non-productive members of society. We also get told that our opinions are warped and don't matter. This podcast is designed to express a point of view on the world as a whole, but from a millennial's perspective. I will talk about love, current events, pretty much everything that comes to mind. Come join me on this journey on speaking my mind, and I would love for you to speak your mind as well. This podcast is sponsored by Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. It gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. Creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. They'll distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere, even on platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Download the Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. Once again, you can download the Anchor app, that's ANCHOR, or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey y'all! Welcome to another episode of The Millennial Mind. This is actually the last episode of the year, of the decade actually. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of me speaking my mind, and I hope you all are speaking your mind as well. I do thank you all for participating in the giveaway that I'm doing, and I do have a winner for this week, and the winner is Justice Sorrows. So thank you so much, Justice, for participating, and I will get your address so that I can mail you your gift. Thank you so much for participating. Okay, so into today's episode, I was actually watching a podcast, or really listening to one, from the Love Hour with Kev on Stage and Mrs. Kev on Stage, and they were talking about 10 lessons that they've learned this decade, since we're going into a whole new decade in pretty much less than a week. So I figured I would do the same thing and just talk about some lessons that I've learned this past decade. And this decade is basically me from 20 to almost 30. So just lessons that I've learned pretty much my entire 20s. And okay, we'll get started. So the first thing, or the first lesson that I've learned, was that God always provides a way. Always. When I say that my 20s were rough as far as me getting myself together, as far as school is concerned, it was rough. Like, I didn't have the opportunity that some kids do, where their parents paid for their education and they didn't have to worry about student loans, all of that. I had to be concerned about all of that. Grants, student loans, I was applying for them all because I was like, I need to figure out how to pay for school, because my parents, this was around the time where my parents were actually going through a foreclosure on their home, so they didn't have the money anyway. So they was like, we really want to help you, but we can't, so you're going to have to pray about it and, pretty much hope for the best. So that's exactly what I would do. I would pray about it, and I would go in each semester to register, knowing that I didn't have the money, but believing that God would provide a way. And He did, miraculously. Each and every semester that I was in school, He would provide a way. And this was during college. Even for law school, He provided a way just for me to get through 7 years of school without having to, worry about how I'm going to get the funds in order to pay for school. It was a blessing. Now, does that mean that I don't have student loans? I wish. I wish I didn't have any student loans. Of course, I have student loans, but I don't have as much as I potentially could have had. The Lord allowed me to have grants and scholarships to help to pay for my schooling, which was so helpful. Even, you think that $1,000 doesn't help you as far as schooling is concerned. $1,000 of free money compared to $1,000 that you have to pay in student loans plus interest, it makes a difference. So every little bit of money I got helped. So, and at times I didn't know how I was going to get the money, but somehow I would just always get it. And I know that was God. I know it was Him, because He had a calling on my life. He ordained me to be in this position, to be in that position at the time, to go to the place where I'm at now. So I thank God. I thank God for just providing a way, and He's still doing it now. Still doing it now. But I thank God for just providing a way for me through my struggle period. I call it my struggle bus period because that's what it was. The second lesson that I've learned this decade is that my parents are the best. And I know everybody has, their own stigma about their parents being the best, but I'm just saying, for me, my parents are the absolute best. The support that they've given me along, my entire life, first of all, I'm blessed just for that, because a lot of people, they don't have the same testimony with, first of all, both of their parents being in the same household together, so a 2-parent household, married, and though married, still happy. That was something that I saw growing up, so that was a blessing in and of itself. But not only that, the way that they supported not just me but my brother as well. They supported us through, our endeavors. My brother said he wanted to be a police officer. They supported him through that. I said I wanted to be an attorney. They supported me through that. They never knocked down our confidence when it came to that. I think only one time my mom kind of questioned, like, oh, are you sure you want to be an attorney? Because you're kind of quiet and kind of, I don't know how this going to work. It looks like you will be a good teacher. Don't you want to be a teacher? I was like, no. I want to be an attorney. So it was, and I know that it was coming out of a good place. But for the most part, they have encouraged us, me and my brother, to do what we've desired to do for the longest. And then I have a good relationship with my parents, with both of them. My mom, I talk to her pretty much every day. My dad, he's not as, I don't want to say needy, but that's the only word I could come up with. He's not as needy where he needs to be talked to every day. But, when I do talk to him, it's like okay, we're just back at it. I think I talk to my dad maybe like a couple times a week. But my parents are just awesome, and I think I've appreciated them more during this decade because I'm older, and I realized that how they raised me and my brother, though at the time it didn't make sense, now in hindsight it makes complete sense. It makes complete sense, and then they actually saved us and protected us from a lot of heartache that we could have received if they didn't have that little bubble around us. So I've learned to appreciate my parents more, and I realize that they are just amazing. Not just amazing parents, but just amazing human beings, and I'll always cherish them for that. Another lesson that I've learned is that faith and therapy can coexist. Oh, this is a big one. So, I started therapy earlier this year. Well, I should say maybe around the summer, I would say. And me growing up in a Christian household and under the Christian faith, a lot of Christians believe that if you have some kind of mental or emotional issue, you pray it away, you shout it away, you fast it away, you whatever, you speak in tongues it away. Like you do all of that, but then I come out, I'm like, I'm still dealing with anxiety. I'm still depressed. Like, what's going on? And not saying that I was depressed, but I dealt with a lot of anxiety. So, what I've learned, and it's in the scriptures, the Bible says that faith without works is dead. So yes, I'm supposed to pray about these issues to God. I'm supposed to say, like, God, I'm dealing with these issues. Help me through this. And then have the faith that God is going to deliver me from the issue. But that's not the only thing I'm supposed to do. In conjunction with having faith that God is going to deliver me, I have to put in the work too. I have to put in the work. And so that's where the therapy came in. So therapy was me actively putting in the work to make sure that my mental and emotional health is on point. Now, a lot of Christians don't believe that. Like I was saying, they feel like, it stops with prayer. No, and I say, no, that's not true. You're not taking into account the whole scripture that faith without works is dead. You have to put in the work. It's just like saying, like, oh, I want to be healthy. I'm going to pray that God, delivers me from high blood pressure and high cholesterol. But, on your end, you're still eating, pork every day. You're still eating beef every day. You're not exercising. You're not drinking any water. Of course, your cholesterol and your blood pressure is going to be high. Prayer is not going to remove that. I'm sorry. It's not. You have to put in the work. God gave us these tools for a reason, and we need to utilize it. Just like we go to the doctor every year for a physical to make sure that our physical health is okay, we should do the same thing with our mental and emotional health. People are very lax when it comes to their mental and emotional health because they think it doesn't matter. Your mental and emotional health, to me, matters even more than your physical health because it can affect your physical health. Your mental and emotional health can exhibit warning signs physically. So your mental and emotional health is just as important. So I put in the work. So not only did I pray and say, God, help me with these issues that I'm having mentally and emotionally, but I was like, okay, I'm going to schedule a therapy session. And in those sessions, I learned a lot about myself. Learned a whole lot about myself, stuff that I didn't like. And then my therapist gave me tools that I could use in order to fight these anxious feelings that I'm having. So yes, it's good to have faith that God's going to deliver you, but then do the work too. And that to me makes it clear to me, from that scripture that I was saying, faith without works is dead, that faith and therapy can coexist with each other. So faith plus doing the work, that equals results. Okay. Moving right along, another lesson that I've learned, this is the fourth lesson that I've learned. Self-care is key. This was a big one for me, especially when I started working full time, I should say. I did not really put in time to care for myself. I would miss doctor's appointments because I'm like, oh, I gotta work. Who's gonna do the work? I gotta do the work. So, if I go to this doctor's appointment, that means I'm gonna miss doing the work that I'm supposed to do, and I'm gonna be behind, and I don't want to be behind, and that's gonna stress me out, and I don't want to be stressed out. But me not going to the doctor or doing like simple appointments, like that didn't help anyway, because who's gonna do the work? Like, I'm definitely not gonna do the work if I'm dead. I won't be doing nothing if I'm dead. Okay? So, taking care of myself first would help me to take care of everybody else. And that's part of my job as an attorney. I take care of other people. I take care of their problems and assure them that their problems are going to be addressed in some shape or form. That's what I do on a daily. So I make sure that everybody is straight. Everybody else is straight. So it's kind of weird that, I'm not making sure that my own self is straight. Like, even on the airplane, when they're going through like the little procedures with you, they tell you, put on your oxygen mask first, and then if you have kids, put theirs on next. Because they know you can't help other people if you are gasping for air. It does not work. So I decided to participate more in self-care activities. And that varies from me saying no to certain things or saying yes to certain things to, getting a massage every now and then. Or just relaxing and not doing anything. Like, not doing nothing but watching Netflix all day. Or holding myself accountable for goals that I said that I was going to achieve by a certain date but did not achieve for whatever reason. Things like that. And I discovered that once I was able to take care of myself, I was able to do my job more effectively. I was able to be a more effective wife, a more effective daughter, etc. Like, all of the hats that I was wearing, I was able to work that more effectively. Okay. The next lesson that I learned was that beauty comes from within. And this is something that I struggled with for a while. So, as you all probably know, I am an African American woman. And I am darker skinned. For a while, especially when I was younger, I had insecurities with myself being African American and being darker, because in the media and in Hollywood, I wasn't seeing people like me too often. And especially in the arena that I was going into, being an attorney, attorneys, they're mostly middle-aged Caucasian men. There's not really a lot of women, let alone African American women, that are attorneys. So, so, so I was basically a double minority. But trying to be comfortable in my skin was something that I struggled with. When I was younger, people like India Ari was out, which kind of helped me some, but I was still struggling. But during this past decade, there have been a lot of darker skinned African American women that have been on the scene, mainstream, like Lupita, and I'm thinking about, I can't think of her name, but she is the actress on Queen and Slim. If you guys know her name, let me know. I can't think of her name right now. There have been so many African American women that look like me that have been on the scene, who have been confident in the skin that they're in, which have given me hope and given me the motivation to be more confident in my skin. Now, two, what they have really exuded is that beauty comes from within. It's not just an outside thing. When you're beautiful on the inside, when your character is beautiful, when your personality is beautiful, that exudes on the outside. People can see that on the outside. Your inside light shines through your outside, so that your outside is even more beautiful. And so when I realized that, like, in order for me to be beautiful, it's not just about my looks and having a great body or having great skin. It was me working on myself, on my internal self. And during this past decade, that's something that I've been working on. Now, have I gotten it completely together? Absolutely not. I'm still working on it daily. But I have really worked on not just focusing on the outside for determining what beauty is for me. I have worked on my inside and let the inside shine through. That's what I have done. And to me, that means a lot more than, having on the latest fashion trends for clothes, wearing the latest makeup trends, which makeup has never really been my thing, but doing all of that, I'm focusing on the inside, and I know that me focusing on the inside is going to exude on the outside. Okay, y'all, so that is the first 5 that I've come up with. We're going to take a little short break, and we'll go through the next 5. Hey, y'all. So we are back, and I am going to go through the next 5 things that I've learned this past decade. So this is number 6. The 6th lesson I've learned this decade is that your choice of a life partner affects 95% or more of your life. Now, I actually saw this at the doctor's office. I was waiting for my doctor to come see me for a physical that I was doing, and she had like this wall plaque that showed things that how was it that she had it, things that kind of affect your life. And so the first thing that it said was like, your choice of a life partner affects 95% or more of how your life is going to go. And that is so true. That is so true. Because just think, your life partner, who you choose to be your life partner, you know, this is the second most, this is like the second person that you're probably going to be most in contact with. I would say the first will, of course, be like your coworkers at work, if you're working. It If you are working, your spouse is going to be second in line as far as who you're going to be most in contact with. And your marriage or your relationship, that affects like how you behave in places that you go, whether that's work, whether that's with family, etc. Like me and my husband, we've been together for about 6 years, going on 7. So it's almost been a decade. So we've been together over a little bit more than half of this entire decade. And my husband, he has provided or given me a whole new aspect, or a whole new outlook, I should say, of life as a whole. Like when I met him, you know, I was young and stupid and really thought I knew it all. I didn't know nothing. I still don't know nothing. But I would say I know a little bit more now than I did back then. But my husband, he gave me a whole nother outlook of life that I didn't know before I didn't know it until I met him. He gave me a whole nother way of living, and this is in a good way. And that affects how I live day to day. That affects how I interact with other people. It just made me more, it made me more humble. I should say that. My husband, he's really a humble guy, real down to earth, very laid back. And that energy, that spirit, that has affected me positively. Now, just think if it was the reverse, if he was, you know, depressed and downtrodden and, you know, always speaking negatively, that's something that I would exude, because that is what I'm experiencing. But my husband, he's humble. He's a goofball. He's real goofy. He has a lot of wisdom, a whole lot of wisdom that I appreciate. He's just really affected my life positively, and I can't imagine being with anyone else. But his outlook on life is something that I experience and I look up to, and that outlook on life has transcended into the way I process life and how I should look at it. And so when they say marriage affects your life, it affects your life, okay? The way you live, the way you interact with this person, the way they treat you, that affects how you live your life. It does. It absolutely does. And I'm thankful that God blessed me with my husband that I love dearly, and he knows that. And then going on with the whole marriage thing, the next lesson that I learned is that marriage isn't difficult if you're less selfish. Okay? And this is not just marriage. This is like relationships in general, I should say. Now, like I said, I've been with my husband for almost 7 years. I'll just say 6 for now. And we've been married for 2 out of those 6 years. So what I will say is that our relationship has lasted as long as it did because we both decided that we're just not going to be selfish. We're not going to think about ourselves all the time. We're going to think about the other. Now, this is something that I had to really grasp, like especially when I first got married, because when I first got married, I was so used to like leaving and going and not really telling people where I was going, even though, my parents wanted me to, but I was still bad at that with them. So I remember one time I got off of work and I think I went like shopping or something like that. And I didn't get home until like 9 or 10 o'clock that evening and didn't tell my husband. And so I came in and he was standing in the doorway and he was pissed. Oh, he was pissed. And he was like, why didn't you tell me, where you were? And I'm thinking in my head, I was like, I don't have to tell you nothing. I'm a grown woman. I'm an independent woman. INDEPENDENT. What you know about me. That was me. Like, I don't have time for this foolishness. I don't need to tell you nothing. I am grown. GROWN, period. If you don't know how to spell it, I spelled it for you. Like, why do I need to tell you anything? Like you should be blessed with my presence when I come home. It should be like, hey babe, oh, I miss you, kissy kissy, huggy huggy. That's what I should be getting. I shouldn't be getting all this attitude. And I was like, oh, you mad for real? You mad for real about this? Because his face was like all scrunched up. I was like, this is not the face that I want to come home to. And I was like, why do I need to say anything? He was like, what if something happens and the police come to me, be like, oh, when did you last see your wife, or what was your wife doing? And I say, I don't know. How does that make me look? That makes me look like an incompetent husband. I was like, okay. And then he was like, well, how would you feel if I did the same thing to you? I was like, yeah, okay, ditto. Okay, that wouldn't feel so good. So he was like, like stop thinking about yourself. You're just acting selfish. I was like, oh, also we gonna throw out the S word. Okay, bet it up. But after I got out my feelings, slept on it, which I usually do. I'm not the type of person that like argues back and forth. I like to sit and process and think about stuff, because if I just blurt out stuff, I'm going to say something that I usually regret. So I, took a little nap, rolled up in the fetal position, thought about my actions. And I was like, you know what? You are right. He is right. That was pretty selfish of me to not at least tell him like, hey, I'm going to be at such and such, I'll be at home as soon as I can, so that he'll know where I am if something happens. Because I would want him to do the same thing. That's absolutely true. I would want him to do the same thing. So at that point, that was the point where I really learned, like, hey, if I want to be married long term, I'm going to have to start thinking about others than myself. That's the only way this is going to work. I can't constantly think about myself and worry about myself, and think that this relationship is going to work. It's not. Even simple things, like if I go to Chipotle, I got to think, I have a husband at home. I think I should get him Chipotle too. I shouldn't be the only one having Chipotle, and then I come home with Chipotle, he'd be like, what about me? And I'm like, well, too bad for you. You're going to have to rummage up something. That ain't cool. That ain't hot. So that was something I really had to make an adjustment with. And I'm still making adjustments with this. I'm not saying that I have it all together, but this is like an ongoing daily thing that I'm working on, is just not being selfish when it comes to my husband, because I want this relationship to work. I want our marriage to be long lasting. I want it to be healthy. I want us to be happy. And the only way that I know, or one of the only ways that I know that I can do that, is to be non-selfish. I can't think about myself all the time. So that was something that I learned, and I'm still trying to get the hang of it. Okay, the next thing that I've learned is my road of life is different from everyone else's, and that's okay. So, and I learned this especially in law school. Law school for me was between 2012 to 2015. I will say I was not the best law school student. Like, school for me, first of all, I didn't like school. I couldn't stand school. Like, I couldn't wait to get out. When I found out that in order for me to be a lawyer, I had to be in school for like 7 years, I'm like, okay, how can I expedite this? Because I do not want to be in school past these 7 years. I cannot do it, okay? So when I get to law school, and, all my life prior to law school, I did well in school. I got A's and B's, decent GPA. I thought I was the model student. But then I get to law school, and, that gets slapped in the face. I get slapped in the face. I'm like, okay, I'm not the model student anymore. I'm getting C's. Oh my gosh, I can't breathe. Hyperventilation. Okay, what's going on? Am I supposed to be here? Am I really supposed to be like a teacher? Maybe that's what I was supposed to do. Maybe I was supposed to be a teacher. Okay. Should I drop out? Maybe I shouldn't drop out because I'm paying for these loans. So there were so many thoughts that were going in my mind. Whereas other students, my other colleagues in law school, they were doing well. They would talk about how they were getting like A's and B's on their midterms, while I was getting like C's. Which a C in law school is like an F. So I was basically like failing. I'm like, oh my gosh, am I not supposed to be an attorney? Is this like a sign from God that this is not what I'm supposed to be doing? Like, Lord, I need for you to come down on a cloud and let me know, because I am so confused. But And you know what? In law school, it was mostly about theory. And I never did well with theory. I never did. Because I'm like, okay, how does this apply to life right now? Like, they will go off of, case law from like the 1800s, which I know it laid the foundation for the cases and the law today. But I'm like, this ain't current law, so this ain't going to help me. Is this going to help me if I go to court today? No, the judge is going to be like, okay, you're bringing up this 1800 case. Counsel, don't waste my time. Sit down. That's what they're going to tell me. And so I didn't do too well with that. Other peers, some of my peers, they did excellent with that. Like, they got it. They were like, always raising their hand, giving awesome answers in class, and I was just sitting there struggling. So I'm like, ooh, I don't know how this is going to work with me being an attorney. But actually, after I passed the bar, and after I started working in the legal field, actually being an attorney, it all made sense. Like, those analytical skills that I learned in law school, it all made sense in practice. Whereas some of my peers who were doing well with theory, when they came to the point where they actually had to practice, They were like a deer in headlights because they didn't know what was going on. So that made me realize is that just because, I may not be doing as well as other people, at this particular stage, that doesn't mean that my life isn't as important, or that doesn't mean that I'm not on the right track to achieving my destiny. It just means that we all have different paths. And sometimes they may run parallel, sometimes they may run perpendicular. It's okay. But we're all trying to get to the point where we're achieving our destiny. That is our main goal in life, is achieving our destiny. We could be like, okay, God, you can take me now. I'm ready because I feel like I've achieved the purpose that you've put me on this earth to do. So just because we're on different paths, just because you see someone achieving more than you are right now, that's okay. Your turn is coming. Things come in seasons. We have good seasons and then we have bad seasons. Everything comes in seasons, and your turn is coming as far as you having a good season. If you're in a bad season right now, your turn is coming for a good season. It's coming. It's inevitable. So that's why I learned. Like, just because, I'm down right now doesn't mean that tomorrow I'm going to be down. Tomorrow I could be up. And the other person could be down. It's just the way that life works. And being comfortable with that is key. Another thing that I learned is that stress is a silent killer. This was a big one for me. And this goes back to me being at work. I actually took some time to go to the doctor because I was exercising my little self-care campaign. Went to the doctor and found out that my blood pressure was like sky high. And I felt like the pressure. I felt like the pressure in my head, in my body. And it felt like I needed to go to the emergency room, but I did not. So I went to court instead, looking dazed and just like something was completely wrong. And the judge was like looking at me like, "Are you okay?" And I think I just need to get through this case so that I can like go home, because I'm losing it right now. And I think for court, I asked the judge for a continuance, which a continuance is like you just need extra time to do what you're supposed to do. And I think I asked for like 30 days. He was like, "Do you want more? I could give you more time." I was like, "Please." I was like, "Please just give me more time," which he granted to me. But all that stress, it was a very stressful time for me. I just had cases upon cases, and just dealing with personal issues as well. It was just a lot. So when I saw that my blood pressure was high, that was a wake-up call for me. I was like, okay, I need to get myself together before I check up out of here at 29. And that ain't hot. That ain't hot at all. I'm too young to be casket fresh. Too young. I ain't going out like that. Like, oh, how did Christian pass away? Oh, she was just stressed out. Stress took her out. No, boo. No, the way I want to go out is natural causes. Do that. That sounds a lot better than like stress. Like, oh yeah, she was so stressed out, she stroked out, she had a heart attack, whatever. No, I can't go out like that. So I took off 2 days of work. It was a Friday and a Monday. I took off 2 days and I got myself together. So I'm like, I cannot do this. And then I found effective ways for me to deal with stress. So if I felt the stress coming on at work, I would leave. I would go home. Our office hours are 9 to 5. At 5 o'clock, I'd be like, peace, deuces, I gotta go, because I feel the stress coming up on me. and I cannot work effectively. I cannot be an effective attorney if I'm stressed out. So stress, it can kill you. It can really kill you. And there were like so many physical ailments that I was having, and I was wondering why I was having them. It was because of stress. I was stressed out. Stressed. And I said, I can't do that. I'm going to have to find ways to deal with this. And a lot of the stress dealt with my anxiety. So my anxiety had a lot to do with it. So that's when I started therapy to kind of give me tools to help with that. And then, just give me tools to help with stress altogether. And this is something that I'm constantly working on as well. I don't have it together, but I'm striving to get to the point where I'm not letting anything bother me. Like, what does my mom say? She's like, oh, if nobody died, you can fix it. And that's, it sounds pretty simplistic, but that's pretty much what it is. I haven't killed anybody. Whatever is going on, it can be fixed. It can be fixed. It can be addressed. It can be rectified. And that's the mindset that I'm going to have moving forward into this next decade. I wish I would have realized this like earlier on in this decade, because that would have saved me like a lot of heartache and a lot of trouble. But I'm glad I learned it now. And I'm going to carry this through for the rest of my life. Another thing that I learned was that your destiny may not be immediately clear, but all you can do is take one step at a time. And this is so true. A lot of times you can't see where you're going. You're going to, some destination. You don't know what that destination is, but you're going. But you have, there's like minimal light that allows you to see what's ahead. It's like when you're driving at night and you have on your headlights. Your headlights only illuminate, up to a certain point. But you're trusting that as you go further and further down the road, those headlights are going to continue to illuminate your way. So you just keep driving. You keep driving in faith, knowing that that's what's going to happen. And that's exactly how you treat your destiny. You take one step at a time. One step. You accomplish taking that one step, you take another step. You accomplish that step, so you take another step, and you keep going, and you keep going, and you keep going until you actually get to where you need to be. And sometimes, it may take years for you to get to your destiny. Sometimes it may take months. Sometimes it may take days. It's definitely not immediate. We all know that. But each step that you take is critical to you getting to where you need to be. So just because you can't see where you're going doesn't mean that you stop going. You keep pushing. You keep going to where you need to be. And you're going to get there. And that's something that I've learned, especially when it came to school. Because with school, I did not know how I was going to get where I needed to get. And I just saw, the step in front of me, and I would take that step and stand on it for a little while. So I'm like, I don't see where I'm going. I don't see another step. And all of a sudden, another step would be illuminated, and I would take that step, and so on and so forth. And it would go on and on and on again until I reached the top of the staircase. And so I look back down like, man, the steps were there all along. I just had to just take the steps. And that's what I did, and that's what I'm constantly doing to get to where I need to get. Just constantly taking one step at a time, because I know eventually I'm going to get to where I need to get. Okay, y'all, we are almost there. Almost done with my 14 lessons that I've learned this decade. We're going to take another break, and we will be back shortly. Okay, y'all, welcome back. I want to go through the last three things that I learned this decade. And I believe earlier on I may have said that there were 14 lessons I've learned this decade. It's actually 13. I only have 13 things, so I'm sorry about that. So we're going to go through the last three things that I learned. And this is number 11. It should be. So, the 11th lesson that I've learned this decade is life is what you make of it. So, if you think that everything is happy and exciting, that's how your life is going to be for the most part, happy and exciting. If you believe that, life is gloomy and sad and, not full of life, then that's exactly how your life is going to be, sad and gloomy. Like, you only have one life, and you have to do the best you can to make the best out of it, because you're not going to be given another one. You're not going to be given another life on this earth, I should say. So what I do is I try to think of the glass half full instead of half empty. So, and just realizing too that there is a lot to life than what I'm just experiencing in my own little environment. There is a whole nother life out there that I have yet to experience. And that's why I like traveling so much. And I've had the ability to travel to a few, I would say a few international countries, as well as, of course, states domestically in the United States. I've been able to experience other ways of life in different cultures, which have allowed me to just enjoy life and enjoy the way that other people are living life. And that just improved my whole outlook of life. And for me, life is not just about working. And that's something I've, of course, had to come to terms with. Like, I have a life outside of work. I have to make the best of it, because when I'm on my deathbed, I'm not going to be thinking like, oh, there was this case that I should have done a little bit different. I'm going to be thinking about, did I spend enough time with my family? Did I spend enough time with my friends? Was I able to go to places that, I've dreamed about going to? Was I able to accomplish my goals? And that's something that I'm trying to put more focus on, is trying to make the best out of the one life that I've been given. Because I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I have no idea. I hope that I'm here a long time. But in the event that I'm not, I want to make sure that I've accomplished everything that I've accomplished, or everything that I wanted to accomplish, and done everything that I wanted to do. Because I don't want to have any regrets. I don't want to look back on my life and be like, yeah, I should have done this, or I should have done that. I want to do it. I want to do it. And I don't want obstacles in life or anything to get in the way of me enjoying my life. So I'm going to make the best of it. And that kind of, that mindset kind of developed from the next lesson that I learned, number 12, that life is short. Oh, life is super short. I have lost key people in my life this decade. I've lost a best friend this decade. 2011, I lost one of my best friends. He was a key part of my life, and I'll never forget him. But I lost him this decade. I've lost some key family members this decade. I've lost some key family, friends this decade. This decade has been a whirlwind as far as deaths are concerned. And I've learned that life is too short for me to worry. Life is too short for me not to do what I feel like I've been destined to do, or that I've been wanting to do. I just got to live the life to the best of my ability, because you just don't know how long you have. You have no idea. So I just want to live my life the best I can without no restrictions. Just living life. And the last thing that I've learned is that life is a crazy ride. Life is crazy. You just never know what you'll experience. You never know what is going to happen in life. You just never know. Like, for example, I was talking about my struggles with school and finding the funds to pay for school. Something that happened to me is I got the opportunity to be on Wheel of Fortune. Yes, the game show with Pat Sajak and Vanna White. I was able to be on that show and won enough money in order for me to pay off a lot of my school debt. And that's something I would have never dreamed of being on, is Wheel of Fortune. Because, of course, I love Wheel of Fortune. I like game shows. I like being competitive. That's just me. But just the odds to work in my favor, where I happen to be on Wheel of Fortune, happen to be called for an audition for Wheel of Fortune, happen to be liked in said audition, and told to be on the show. Like, that's a dream. That's something that people dream of doing, and I was able to do that. Or like the opportunity to go to like Jamaica with my husband, to Canada. Like, some people, they haven't even gone out of their own neighborhood or gone out of the state. So to be able to have the funds to go to an international country was just amazing. Of course, me being an attorney, there's stories that go along with that, with people that I've come encounter with, or people that I've encountered, I should say. It's just life. It's a lot of twists and turns and bumps and hills and valleys, but it's rewarding. It's so rewarding, because, like, you can tell people, like, yeah, during my life, this is what happened, this is what I experienced, and I don't regret any of it. Just life is crazy. And to say that I lived through, another decade of my life, and I'm going into another decade, that is huge for me. And I'm so thankful to God that He allowed me to, and there's still a few days left in this decade, but I'm so thankful that God allowed me to see this decade, and we're closer to seeing the end of it, and being able to see another decade. It's just, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, and it's a gift that I do not take for granted. So those are my 13 lessons that I've learned this decade. I wish I had 20. I feel like I could have done 20, but I didn't want to, go overboard with this. But thank you guys so much for listening. And before I leave you guys, I wanted to give you this quote, because I know I didn't have one for you last week. Judge me not, but I have one for you guys this week. It says, never underestimate the power you have to take your life in a new direction. So if your life is not going in the direction that you want it to go, start now. Don't wait until 2020. Start now, where you take your life, where you, make up in your mind that your life is going to go in a different direction, and only you can make it go in a different direction. No one else can. So thank you guys so much for listening. Once again, this podcast is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, and Pocket Casts. Also, make sure you email me at mindofmillennials@gmail.com and give me some ideas as far as topic ideas and as far as this week's giveaway. I want to know your top 5 lessons that you've learned this decade. Email me at mindofmillennials@gmail.com. That's MINDOFMILLENNIALS@gmail.com. Email me your top 5 lessons that you learned this decade, and then I'll pick a winner for next week's episode. Until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful New Year. By the way, I hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas. I'm sorry I didn't say that before. A wonderful holiday. Some people may celebrate Christmas. Some people may celebrate Kwanzaa. Some people may celebrate Hanukkah. Whatever you celebrate, I hope that you have a happy holiday. And especially for the new year, be safe. Have a happy new year. And until next week, I will see you soon.